And I don't dance like Elaine.
Wait, what did you do? What? Did you Google?
Yes.
Busted.
I should have recorded her, John.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of 1980s Now, a weekly examination of the importance of 1980s pop culture and its influence today. My name is Will, and joining me, as always, are my friends and co-hosts, Kat and John. Hello, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hey, don't forget to listen to John on his very own podcast that he hosts with his two good buddies, George and Mo, Gen X Grown Up, or check out their channel on YouTube, Gen X Grown Up. Same name, makes it real convenient there. It'd be something if you had a completely different name.
That does. Works out well.
You know there's somebody else.
Check it out.
Some really creative podcaster who, got their act together. Two different names. And TikTok's a third name. And,
Perfect.
So you got me fired up for the show complaining about other shows. All right, whatever. Hey, on today's show, we're going to be exploring the true...
You're welcome.
Thank you. The true dark tale of the Cabbage Patch Kids.
Oh,
I'm not talking about that weird cartoon one that we talked about, I don't know how long ago that was. Although that's part of it.
Story.
But no, I'm going to tell you the true story.
Oh.
And I'm going to tell you the only way or the best way I know how, which is in the form of a true crime. Although...
Cocaine Bear Mark II.
I put crime... I was doing my crime in
So
quotes, but this
excited.
is a true crime. Crime. Now I'm trying to... How do you undo quotes that you said? This is a true crime.
Backspace.
Whatever. I love when Kat does callbacks for stuff that's not on the show. And it's just for us.
That's what Patreon is for.
Yeah, there you go. Now I got to hope we were recording the conversation.
John snuck in a little, I think we did, and John snuck in a little backspace. I don't think you heard him at some point. Yeah.
All right.
I heard him.
Before that, we're going to review current news stories related to 1980s media, including two stories involving Harrison Ford. We could have had many more. As Kat continues to post, to send us over lots of Harrison Ford. Big fan. Well, we're going to find out the dumb question you shouldn't ask Harrison Ford. We're going to find out the true fact, the truth, talking about true stories, the true story or the fact, the true, quote unquote, true story, I suppose, in this regard, that Ford has always known about Blade Runner. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one. You know what I'm talking about. If you're a fan of Blade Runner, you know what I'm talking about. And Ice Cube calls AI demonic, and I agree. And we'll hear why in just a moment. Before that, though, I wanted to make an announcement. Mm-hmm. Hey! So, I often talk about our good friend George Krupski, who is a writer, a screenwriter, he's a cinephile, he's a all-around town film expert. Well, in addition to the, all of those hyphenates or whatever,
Yes.
he is, some of the writing that he's done is also on Firefly the Game. Now, you guys know the TV show Firefly, right? You've heard of it?
Mm-hmm. I've watched it, yeah.
Oh, you have? Probably because George encouraged you to.
Nope. He had nothing to do with it.
Because he encouraged me to, and much to his chagrin, I have never watched it.
It's much to my chagrin, too.
What?
Right.
Oh, my.
John, you're a fan, too?
Yes. I famously, among my friend group, when they canceled the show, there are still 3 episodes I haven't watched.
Oh.
Because I always have new Firefly ahead of me.
Wow. How do you keep yourself from watching it?
Used to be 4. A couple of years ago, I watched one. It's down to 3. But as long as I don't watch them, there's still new Firefly for me.
It never would have occurred to me.
So are you going to pace it maybe in times for a new film or a new reboot? Then you can watch the rest.
Maybe. I'm not holding my breath.
Well, in the game world, we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of Firefly the Game. I don't know how long the TV show is, but I'm guessing it's older than that. Otherwise, how would they have had the game before that? Maybe the game inspired the show? Probably not. Anyway, this time around, these folks are doing a fundraising effort, like you would do on GoFundMe, that type of thing. But it's on GameFound.com. Firefly the Game, the 10th Anniversary Collector's Edition. And I'm letting you know about this in particular because you and John, Kat and John, are both fans of Firefly. You're going to want to know about this anyway. But as I mentioned, our good buddy George Krupski has written new material for the game that expands the existing game, as I understand it. So this is a big box version of the game, which collects all the previous expansions into one giant big box. I guess that's why they call it big box.
Hence the name.
What? It also includes brand new game expansions, as I mentioned, that are designed by our good buddy George and his fellow Firefly fan, Joe Kepler. You want to get your hands on this thing. So you get, in order to do that, you're going to head over to gamefound.com. We're going to put a link in our notes here. So it make it real easy for you, but you're going to go to gamefound.com and you're looking for Firefly. The game comes up. In fact, once you're there, you could actually read an interview with our friend George too, who again wrote expansion material for the new edition. But there, it's live now. So it wasn't live before this, and now it's live. So go and do that. Please support our buddy George and Firefly the game over at gamefound.com.
Link in the show notes, no doubt.
This gives George his nerd cred, his writer's cred, right? He is the guy who's also writing us our true crime that we're going to be doing down at the Southern Fried Gaming Expo at the end of July.
Oh, yeah?
Why am I out of breath? I've been sitting here in this one spot this whole time. Is it because I shuffled papers?
Yeah, maybe that's it.
All right. Hey, let's get caught up on 1980s news. Hit this week on 1980s news, as reported by Variety, don't ask Harrison Ford a dumb question. Now, I feel like that already is something we've all known, right? We've seen these interviews with him where he just, as John would say, suffers no fools. Right. And that's Harrison Ford straight up. He is a guy who, if someone offered to have him on our show, which I don't even have the audacity to try to get him on the show, but if say they offered him to us, I'd be nervous.
Be intimidated.
Yeah.
I'd be watching and researching so many interviews to find like what is that way we can, thread the asteroid field, so to speak, to, safely get to Cloud City. Yes. I don't know what that is offhand. So when I read this story, I wasn't surprised, but Harrison Ford revealed in a new interview with Esquire magazine that the most common Star Wars question that fans ask him is, who would win in a fight, Han Solo or Indiana Jones? I don't know. It's funny. I remember, a couple of years in a row, we did Smash Madness, where we'd have fictional characters against each other. I'm only remembering that now, just as I'm about to criticize the idea of people debating who would win in a fight, fictional character-wise.
Will, that is so funny because I was about to do the same thing. It's like, well, what's the point in asking these questions? Oh, I filled out a Smash bracket.
Oh, right. Kat, before she was on the show.
To guess who.
Right.
In our history of collaborating with different podcasting groups, I have encountered not one, but two separate matchup podcasts. That's all they do is pick two fictional characters and decide who would win amongst, I think one of them is called Who Would Win, possibly. That's creatively
all
named.
They do?
But this kind of question reminds me of when I used to be on the Star Trek convention circuit. And if somebody had their hand up and they got called for a question, but didn't have a good question.
Yeah.
One go-to question every time. What's your favorite episode? That's all they would ever ask. And the people, and so many of the actors just had canned stupid responses because they're like, or they say an episode of a different series that they watch. They like that episode. They would just make it up because that's all people would ask. They just want to ask a question. So I get Harrison Ford's frustration.
Okay. So speaking about frustrating folks, maybe we should take this question, seriously for a moment here. Before we talk about Harrison's answer, Mr. Ford's answer, who would win? Let's think. Let's debate this here. Let me think.
Oh man!
I mean, it's got to be Han Solo, right? He's got space age technology or space technology.
I'm leaning that way.
And we know he would shoot first.
But Indiana Jones is just as wily.
Yeah, but he's got a whip.
Figure a way out of it.
And a gun.
Yeah.
I just feel like Harrison Ford. I don't understand why people are even asking stupid questions or fictional characters or Star Wars.
There's the mumble.
Right, yep. I guess we'll never know.
Mutter.
Well, as John suggests, Ford, with regard to this question.
Let's ask Harrison. He'll tell us.
All right, here's what he said. Quote, well, they usually ask me if there was a fight between Han Solo and Indiana Jones, who would fucking win? And I say, me, asshole. I don't want to fucking make shit up like that. I mean, what are you asking me that crap for? Yeah, especially if it's a question you get asked over and over again. I don't imagine if Harrison Ford was asked this the first time he would be entertained or charmed by it. He probably was pissed off already. Mm-hmm. But if you're asked it over and over again
from the previous question.
when I prepare to interview folks, it's a mixture of researching what they've been asked before to try to find, okay, well, that's interesting or that, or turn it around so that I'm not asking the same thing. But it is tricky. But this seems like a landmine that would be perfectly obvious to avoid. Yes. All right. Anyway, so it turns out Ford's played both Indiana Jones and Han Solo in 5 films apiece now. But of course, despite these iconic characters, he often stresses to fans that he is not Harrison Ford and not Han Solo or... Sorry, that he is Harrison Ford and not Han Solo or Indiana Jones. He's saying, quote, yeah, but I'm not Indiana Jones. I'm Harrison Ford. Harry Ford, in fact. End quote.
Harry.
So I did learn that one thing. I would call him Harry, though. If we
there you go.
That does seem weird and disrespectful, doesn't it?
Call him Mr. Ford.
I would, too.
But it sounds like it would be a tie. No, neither of them would
There
win.
you go. Thanks, Ken.
Do you know what I learned just over the last couple of days is that, yes, Harrison Ford reprised his role, had the role and reprised 4 more times in 5 Indiana Jones films.
Yep.
I did not know that he actually reprised his role for television once.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was in one episode of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles as a not as old, because they had the bookends with the old Indy. They had him like as a not as old Indy, like in his 50s or something, which is how old he was at the time.
Yeah. And
it wasn't great. He was playing a little saxophone. That's what he was doing in this cabin.
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
There's like a car chase or a truck chase or something like that.
Yep, you remember it.
There's another character he's helping, and maybe the other character is like a jazz musician or something. The
guy who young Indy was a friend of in the other part of the show. So.
All right. I think we're done with that one, right? Okay. So, hey, all right. Another 1980s news, and also a story featuring Harrison Ford, just as a coincidence.
No, Harry.
Oh, Harry. Damn it.
It's like he didn't listen to his own news article.
Well, I won't ask him a dumb question. Hey, another story, featuring Harry, and as reported by Inverse. So we talked about, I think we talked about this when we were talking about George Lucas screwing up Return of the Jedi and Star Wars generally having multiple versions of his films and now destroying all those, but for this, the canon one is terrible, whatever. Anyway, we talked about Blade Runner, how there's a lot of different versions. And so in part because of that, for decades, there's been a mystery that I guess it came with the first film, but it's been propagated by the fact that we have alternate versions of the film that raises a question about the character that Harry plays in the 1982 film, which basically, look, whether you've seen it or not, or you have, it boils down to this. Is he a human, his character of Rick Deckard, a guy who hunts androids, or is he a replicant, which is the race of android slaves that were created in the futuristic 2019. Well, in a new video interview, and again, folks have debated both sides of this, and there's reasons for it and reasons against it. So this is a spoiler, by the way, if you haven't seen either 1982's Blade Runner or the most recent Blade Runner 2049.
Is it a spoiler? I'm eager to see what you're going to say that you think is a spoiler.
To answer that question.
Because the spoiler is that it's unclear whether or not something is true or not. Because the movies don't say it.
No, I'm going to tell you definitively what it is.
Well... Okay.
Because in a new video interview with Esquire, again, this is coming out of that interview where Ford talked to Esquire, the magazine asked him about the many facets of his career, including why Ford has gone on record and even argued with director Ridley Scott over the true nature of Deckard. Ford's response is a spoiler, John, because he says, quote, I always knew that I was a replicant. I just wanted to push back against it, though. I think a replicant would want to believe they're human. At least this one did, end quote.
I call shenanigans.
What do you mean? You think he's playing with us?
Well, the thing I don't believe is that we just established that Harry is a no-nonsense guy. Would he really run a goofy long con like this to just pretend he didn't know the answer to this thing? He seems much more likely to me to be a guy, oh, of course he's a replicant. Next question. Like, why would he even go through the effort of, I don't see, he doesn't play with his characters like that, so... I almost feel like he's chosen a side to say it just so people will stop asking him. That's what I read.
Okay.
Well, according to Paul M. Salmon, who was a journalist who was on set when they made the film, Scott tried to have things his way by inserting abstract clues that suggest Deckard was a replicant. Because, there's the ambiguity is not there for Scott. He believes he's a replicant.
Sure.
But when Ford began to notice these little tricks that, little Easter eggs Scott was plugging into the movie, he allegedly told Scott, God damn it, I thought he wasn't a replicant. So to your point, John, I don't know. Maybe at the time he had an agreement with Scott and he's held on to that for a long time, but at some point, maybe post 2049 or during 2049, which in that film it's also revealed he's a replicant. Maybe he's had a change of heart since then.
I'm starting to feel about this like about the question of whether or not Han Solo or Indiana Jones would win.
Yeah. Does it matter? Here's the thing. And
I don't know. Does it?
It does, because
it does matter. Definitely matters.
I saw the original movie once.
Yeah.
And it was fine. It wasn't my favorite movie ever. But I'm trying to remember, like, is this important? I don't know.
Let me give you my little take on it. And that is, it's important whether or not he is a replicant, but it's not important to have a definitive answer. And I'll clarify that, because that sounds contradictory, I know. But I think of the film Inception, where, they would go inside of dreams and dreams within dreams and out. And at the end, you'll remember that he had this top that he would spin to determine whether or not he was still inside of the dream or not.
Right.
And the film ended without telling you. We knew the character was questioning his own position and sanity and place in the world, and he knew he had a test for it, but they didn't tell the audience the answer.
Right.
Okay.
And I think that's okay. I think it's good that the character is questioning his identity, but I don't know that it's so important that we know the answer.
Okay.
That might be okay. Let me throw this out there, and then let's take another look at what John just said, because I don't know that I disagree with him. But this, and again, as I mentioned early on, it depends on which version of the film you watch. But most recently, the 2007 final cut is the one that Ridley Scott had the most control over, and he wound up sticking back in all the visual clues that are referred to that Harrison Ford was against. He stuck them all back in there, the ones that suggested Deckard is a replicant, including some trippy quote-unquote dream featuring a unicorn. Well, do I have to go into this much detail? Probably not. All right, let me just take a step back. Let's just say it this way. And this article puts it really succinctly, more succinctly than I was about to. What it says is, when you consider that he may be a replicant or is a replicant, the movie is a story about identity and memory and how those forces can collide within an individual. And the way this article concludes, it says that if Deckard is human, all Blade Runner becomes is a movie about a guy with weird dreams and a crush on a robot. And I think that, for me, that sums it up. So to your point, though, John, do you need to know definitively one way or another in order to have it exist in that more sort of, that richer, more complex way that's more interesting, the first way versus the crush on the robot?
And I definitely get what you're saying. And I mean, it was kind of reductive to go, it's just about this guy that has a crush on robots. Okay, that's fine. It's amusing, and I get that. But whether it's true or not, whether that's his identity, I think the interesting thing to me, and I actually only saw Blade Runner in the last 5 years. I had not seen it before then.
Okay.
So
Same.
So it's relatively fresh in my mind. And so I don't have history with it, but I do have familiarity recently. And again, it's the nature of the fact that I don't know, or the fact that I am questioning my identity is enough, because maybe he's saying, is this all I am? Which is almost what you just asked, Will. Is this all that this movie is about? I think people have that question in real life all the time. Is this all there is? Is this all that I'm meant to do? They would like to think there's more, but they don't know definitively, but they're exploring their self and trying to get into that. And that's a little abstract, I know, but I mean, ultimately, as you said, it's about memory and identity and that sort of thing. And I think not knowing a clear answer, for me, makes it more intriguing.
I'm okay with not knowing. I don't feel the need to to have a definitive answer. I guess it depends on how okay you are with gray.
Yeah, and you know what? You remind me, John, because I saw the film when it came out. I had it on, Betamax, and watch it over and over again with friends and just by myself. And my friend and I, Louis DeMarco, would play what we called androids, which was about, being Blade Runners and hunting down who an android was. And the couch was like this thing you could jump in. It was like a tube system where you we would imagine that it took you somewhere else, but even though they were still laying there.
That's great.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
And someone would have to jump on the love seat in order to be able to chase after the couch in your mind.
This is a super sophisticated don't touch the ground.
Oh, yeah. I even created like a little basic program on my Texas Instrument computer, like TI-994A, so that we could pretend we were entering passwords and unlocking.
That's spectacular. This is way more sophisticated than my Incredible Hulk cosplay that I did when I was 10. Well done.
Which is what? Really, you just getting pissed at a birthday party?
It's a story for another day. It's a longer story. No, I'll say
you lost that Connect 4.
I did not have any software to go with my Incredible Hulk play.
But so I've seen it quite a bit, and I've seen all the versions. But you know what? You do remind me that even though there was that question, I don't know that I cared. And I did come down more on the side that he was probably a human. That said, the story, and I guess I'm agreeing with you, John, and disregarding the way this article concludes. For me, the movie is about, it includes those things, but it's more from the perspective of the androids he's pursuing. And ultimately, it's about, life and how you choose to use your life and fearing death, which we get that sense mostly from these androids who are doing these, outrageous things, increasingly outrageous and, sort of dastardly things to try to stay alive. And so for me, I learned lessons about those kinds of existential questions, and maybe not these other ones, but that was just fine too. It still was a deeper film than A Guy Loves a Robot.
And whether he's a replicant or not, he's doing the will of the humans. So you could say, even if his identity is a replicant, his role is not.
Right.
Because he would be playing against his own kind. And would he do that if he was truly a replicant, truly of his own free will? Probably not. But does he even know? Again, that's the question around it.
Well, what's interesting is some of the things that you're talking about there are addressed in Blade Runner 2049. Again, with no spoilers, but the main character played by Ryan Gosling is a Blade Runner, and he's also a replicant, and he knows he's a replicant.
I think I need to rewatch the first one with a fresh perspective.
Well, watch the final cut. It's definitely
I'm going to jump from the couch to the left seat,
and rush over,
over to that chair.
Rush over to the TV in your tube system.
Write me a basic program so I can ask about the reality of existence.
I think
love it.
That's the best I could do.
I think the travel in our minds was based on the bank when they'd have those tubes where they stick the mail into the check.
Did you have a cylinder to click yourself in?
That's what
or did you imagine one?
That's what I imagined. I don't know what Louis was imagining.
Or you just free flowing in the tubes.
Yeah. You just dove in. I imagine it closing, and then.
Shkunk.
That's a good sound. Yeah.
That's the sound of I'm about to get a lollipop from the bank guy.
If we'd say
wow
in front of John, he's going to start salivating. Something's like, you guys getting hungry? Hey, finally, in 1980s news, and as reported by Unilad, I think it is. Is that how you say it? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Unilad?
I know Unilad.
Ice Cube calls AI demonic. So it seems like, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess in some regards, AI is having its watershed moment.
Yep.
Many, from large corporations to your ordinary plebes like myself, are experimenting with AI to make images, write fiction, complete college essays, produce videos, and compose music. But for some, simply having a computer-generated song is not enough, and so they're also having AI versions of their favorite performers sing those songs. It's really terrifying, but
that's weird.
So, and this is a popular trend now, where you see on TikTok people uploading these different things among the various incarnations of AI. They have, for example, let's see, the voice of controversial rapper Kanye West, who now goes by, I think it's Ye, even though it should be Ye, right? Because it's Kanye.
Yeah.
Right, but I think it's Ye. Yeah.
Because of Yeezus? I don't know. Who cares? He's a fucking idiot. Anyway.
Ye shall make up your mind and pick a name is what ye shall do.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Right. Anyway, they've been having him sing songs that are totally out of character for him, including ones by Lana Del Rey and Taylor Swift, which is hilarious.
Oh.
But
yes.
Even though I find that highly entertaining in one regard, I do not support AI in this, replacing what normally creative, artistic humans do. Let's let the humans do those things, okay?
Right. We don't need replicants making the music.
Exactly.
Even if they don't know if they're replicants.
Oh, no.
They shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
How do I know you guys aren't replicants?
Oh.
Anyway, but so I don't, maybe you need a little boost or a little help, a little assistance. Okay. Completely, typing into ChatGPT, write me a song, have Kanye West sing it. Yeah. I'm not for that. Besides the fact that it's, it's questionably illegal.
Okay. I'm going to pull some more information out of you. So I know why I think you might be against it.
Yeah.
But, and I probably agree that I'm against it, but I don't know for the same reasons. Is it, I don't want to tarnish the well. Do you tarnish a well? I don't want to poison the well. Just tell me, why is it made out of copper? Why is it that you are against this type of like vocal AI?
Okay. Well, let me buff the well. Polish the well? I don't know, whatever. I'm getting it back up to sheen.
Buff.
Well, do you mean the vocal AI with regard to the singers? So specifically with Kanye?
Yes, right.
Example?
Yeah, I mean, I think I know why you might be against it. It almost seems obvious, but I want to make sure I understand. Why is it you say I'm not in favor of this type of AI?
Yeah, I guess it's probably the reason you think. And this example is is a good one because it's just wholeheartedly replacing what a human would otherwise do. I've seen examples of it where we've got AI assisted things that happen that are pretty cool. And in our business in particular, there's tools where you could use now where later on you screwed up something in the podcast, you could type in what you meant to say and the AI will put your voice.
Wow.
Okay, that's cool. That's easy. That's better than dragging all the equipment together, getting everybody back on line and stuff like that. It's the wholehearted, and secondly, John, the other aspect of it is without the cooperation or permission of the person who is being imitated.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm only against one of those, right? I don't subscribe to the they took our jobs kind of thing, like computers are doing it kind of thing, because you could say that about every invention in the history of time, that as technology comes along and the Industrial Revolution and the technology revolution, that yes, technology comes along and is able to handle what some people might consider menial or not, but laborious jobs, time-consuming jobs. The whole point of technology in industry was to improve the quality of life for non-replicant humans. But
on
the backs of slave robots.
But I do understand the complaint of like, and I don't mind if you replace a vocalist. It's representing the vocalist as someone who they are not. That's dishonest.
Yeah. Misrepresented.
Right?
Yeah, because then you have the risk of like, okay, well, this is Puff Daddy singing this song. Well, it's not. And if you represent it as such, that can be damaging because that's like deep fakes or, fake nudes or something. Put someone's face on something. It puts someone in a light they would not otherwise have been in on their own. So that's the part I don't like.
Yeah. And generally I agree with you. To the extent that technology helps us look, we shouldn't be fighting it. But with regard to art, there's another thing that concerns me about with art in particular. And I don't think it's because we are creative people. We do, we create content. We're artsy people. I don't think that's it. And so I feel more protective of it. I think it's more this idea of the lowering of the bar. And again, this is going to sound like maybe I'm just a snob, with regard to our niches, but I'm a snob in a lot of niches. Other people's niches too, I'm snobby about. So, but this is what I worry about. We see, we talked about dumb people don't know they're dumb, and that sort of acceleration of, we're heading towards that idiocracy society, it seems, as IQs are lowered, generation over generation, birth rates are down. All these things are happening, setting us up for this. What I fear is, just like with this, I feel about streaming and other things that have democratized content creation, the bar gets lowered in what's considered entertaining or, of value in from an art perspective, again, which is, totally subjective, gets lowered. And so we get to a point where, since it's easy for me to, and you see people on YouTube say this, you can use ChatGPT to create all your content and make $5 a day on YouTube. All right, fine. But what happens as a result? That becomes a new standard. And now humans aren't doing it. And so just stuff continues to get shittier and shittier. That's my real gripe with it.
Sure.
From the art perspective. So it was more systemic than just the individual misrepresentation.
Yeah.
I was speaking with someone over the weekend. I went to a college reunion, and one of my former classmates was lamenting the use of AI for creative writing, which is part of her livelihood. And she was really distressed. I think part of it was personal. It's like, hey, this thing is taking over my livelihood. And I know you just spoke to that, John. Of course, technology has taken over lots of things for humans. But one of the things that really bothered her is that what the AI is producing is kind of crappy.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not good stuff.
Right.
And she's tried to pivot, and now she's doing editing of things that were produced by AI. And she's just astonished.
She's helping the robots?
She doesn't, right. Well, she's decided to refuse to do that. She's decided I can't, that she can't do this. It was an opportunity.
I, for one, welcome our cybernetic overlords. I will cooperate. I will comply.
But the lowering the bar thing, she's like, this is crap.
It will spit out some mistakes, and I catch it sometimes when I use it, because I use it to write descriptions for things, and it's just it's culling all this information it has and doing its best Google search result in the form of paragraphs, and often it's wrong.
And sometimes it can be useful, I think, but sometimes it just can't replace humans. Yeah.
And while I didn't read the article, is probably something everyone can say about anything they've ever read on the internet or learned on the internet. But while I didn't read the article, I saw a headline. Well, I read some of it. I skimmed it. I wanted to go back to it. But the general idea was someone was analyzing content like John's describing, written by ChatGPT, which clearly it just uses whatever's at its resources it has access to. They were experimenting in ChatGPT or some similar system was writing. They asked it to write about some fact-based thing. And it wrote all these different things, and some of the facts weren't correct. And the question came up for the folks reviewing or just doing this study was, did the system just get it wrong, or was the AI lying?
Oh.
So much like we talk about dumb people getting dumb, that you say, hey, do you know about such and such? And someone just bullshits their way through it to get a B+ or get through a conversation. And only later do you realize that motherfucker was making that shit up because he didn't know.
Are you suggesting the AI is architecting the downfall of intellectualism on purpose?
Whether on purpose or not, it's a concern. Yeah.
They'll believe this. I'll just spit out this bullshit information. Beep.
By the way, what's the best way to kill a human? It's my job to help these chat bots. I have to tell it.
It's frightening.
So anyway, look, one of our favorite Gen X rappers who made it big first in the 1980s, Ice Cube, is the latest of artists to call out AI in this bizarre music trend that I explained to you. Ice Cube, though, unlike other folks who are speaking out about this, just straight up threatened anybody who uses AI. Okay, he threatened legal action, but I would take that as euphemism if I were you. But he said anybody that uses his generated track would be in trouble in that regard. Speaking to the Full Send podcast, the former NWA member said, quote, I don't want to hear an AI Drake song. Yeah, I don't want to hear that bullshit. He should sue whoever made it, end quote. And when host Kyle Forjard asked Cube what he would do if he found someone had done the same with his voice, he swiftly replied, quote, I'm going to sue the motherfucker who made it and the people and the platform who play it, end quote.
Wham.
He added, I think AI is demonic, and I think it's going to get a backlash from organic people, end quote. And I thought, wouldn't only a robot call people organic people? Do we not know that are we sure Ice Cube isn't a replicant?
Oh, no. Yes.
What kind of legal grounds could you possibly have? Making the song is no big deal. Anybody can do that, and it's free. It's if you represent that Ice Cube was on your album, a backing track by Ice Cube or whatever. And I'll tell you, I had no interest prior to reading this article to doing a fake rap with Ice Cube's voice, but now I wanna. It had the opposite effect on me. I actually want to now.
No.
I didn't think of it until he mentioned it, and I'm like, sure, I'll try it.
Oh, man.
Well, I'm trying to remember exactly what.
Don't do it.
Come at me, Ice Cube.
There is a concept in the law that you are entitled, you have a right to the commercial use of your own likeness.
Commercial.
Right. And we had this established with regard to, I think the case, the sort of precedent was set with regard to Martin Luther King. I'm thinking vaguely like his image was used to promote something else. And so his estate sued, and it turned out, sure, that even that picture was public domain, but taking it and putting it together with this creates a whole other thing that so I think generally that's the idea. And would say, and similarly, although I don't know that we've had cases because this is Wild West territory for this right now, applied, it would be a similar idea, voice. And I think actually this question has probably come up with regard to impersonators, someone doing a local ad, imitating Ronald Reagan or something in the 1980s, telling them to go buy used cars.
Elvis even, whatever,
so
right? All these
we've
personages.
probably dealt with it, but it's probably those questions that would be asked just from a legal perspective, as you say, John. And with regard to the commercial thing, as we talked about with copyright, it's one of the considerations, but it's not definitive. And I think it's the same here. So, there's other things to be considered. But
Take that, Ice Cube.
Yeah. I guess to their credit, I feel Universal Music Group has called on streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music to outright ban AI generators from training on copyrighted songs.
Oh.
Yeah. And the music giant's also been sending takedown requests to streamers who post AI generated tracks on TikTok, YouTube, and so on and so forth. Yeah, part of the challenge, and I learned this, I think, from my buddy, voice actor Yuri Lowenthal, was that because they're trying to do it in his business too, and that's we know with the writer strike, they're trying to get AI to write stuff for TV shows and films. Well, they're trying to get they're trying to use AI to replace voice actors in some regards, and in some instances, they're doing what I said. They may use an AI to. Well, Yuri wasn't available for this take because he's in different, so we'll just have the computer do it.
Okay, sure.
Okay. But in the meantime, they shouldn't be permitted, and I think they are, feeding hours and hours of, these actors into a database so they learn how to talk like them.
Right.
I knew you were upset. All right, now I'll edit that down so it's nice and tight.
I opened up my app and a fucking ad came up. And I'm like, no, the timing's terrible.
All right, on that note, that is the sound for the end of 1980. Thanks to the Lightning Kids for letting us play a clip of their song Back to You. Yeah, they're a group who's keeping this 80s types music, 80s inspired, I should say, synthwave, alive. You can find more about them and find how you can listen to their music. Find them as the Lightning Kids Music on Instagram. All right. Hey, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, on this right now, I'm going to be telling you the true dark story. But first, right now. Don't change. Don't skip ahead. Don't use the show notes. Because you're right where you want to be. I'm going to tell you the true story about the Cabbage Patch Kids. It's a tale that I was not familiar with until I learned it, which is an obvious statement.
Genius.
I didn't know it till I knew it, and then I know it, and now I know it.
Now you do.
But
we don't.
Yeah, you don't. Or maybe you do. If you do, and I don't. Just pretend like you don't and act shocked.
Okay.
That's easy for me. Very easy.
I don't, but I'm going to pretend like I do.
Okay, good. But don't.
Wait,
no,
what?
Don't do that. But I'm gonna.
It's like AI.
So, but because there is a crime, or maybe there wasn't a crime. There's definitely a crime invoked, I should say, or there's a crime involved. So we're going to do this as a true crime. All right, there you go. So just like always, I will read this true crime, or I will tell you the true crime and the story. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, just feel free to interrupt me whenever, and we'll address those immediately.
All right.
And this I don't know that I'll leave in the show because I feel like I'm just jinxing things or whatever. This isn't funny. There's nothing funny about this. It's not like it's a murder or anything. That's not what I mean, but...
Yeah, because that would be funny.
Hey, Will, leave the funny to us. You just read
You're right. John, you've said that before. You're right. All right, here we go. Let me find my music here.
That's right.
There it is.
I feel like I need different music for this one, but we'll see what happens when it comes out.
Wait, is this one too upbeat for you?
It's too light and peppy.
It's far too cheerful for the story we have coming up.
Yeah. I have some ideas of some future episodes, but I won't waste your time talking about them now, but it's gonna, whatever. I want to give more power to you guys. Like that saxophone thing. I want you, put it this way. I really want to find a way where you guys could press buttons and make certain things happen.
I want the ability to actually derail the show. That's what I'm looking for.
And because what I was thinking about in the context of this, like because you know how I'm staring at this paper while I read. And if I hear you guys saying something, I'll look up or I check in every now and then. But if you really want to cut me off while I'm head down reading, I want you to be able to do it.
Okay. All right.
I feel empowered.
And actually what I wanted to do was tell like a terrible story, but give you guys the buttons that could add a laugh track to it to lighten it up. I want to give you like access to different, guffaws or ooh or oh, and laughs or just applause. And you just could feed them in as you think it's necessary to help. Not this one, but something in the future. So I can get away with telling a horrible crime, and you could add like, wah, 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 when they find the body.
Perfect.
All right, here we go. I'm going to start the music, then we'll start. Again, you got any thoughts, questions, just let me know. November 1983. More than 1,000 people stood gathered in the frigid air just outside the Zayre's department store in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
Hey, that's just right above me.
Cold and anxious. Is the Zayre still there?
Oh, no, I meant Wilkes-Barre.
Oh, the town.
Yes.
No, I know that's still there. Yeah.
Theirs is gone.
Cold and anxious, the throng, many of whom had been waiting since midnight, began to shout for the store to open early. Taped inside the glass doors of the retail establishment, taunting the would-be customers, was the sign that had drawn them there. Cabbage Patch Kids in stock. And while most shops had been selling the popular, albeit homely, dolls for $30, Zayre's was offering them for the low price of $17.99. But the prices weren't the only thing that would be knocked down that day.
Nice. Nice segue there.
Hey, Kat, you had a Cabbage Patch, right?
No, I did not.
No, you didn't, but John did?
Nope.
Neither of you did? None of us
No, I
did.
never had a Cabbage Patch.
Okay.
Nope.
I had a friend who had several. And so I
That's what it was.
That was enough.
would go over to her house a lot. Yeah. I never had
Vicariously
my
through
own.
Right.
Yeah,
through
yeah. Yep. We
friends
couldn't
adopted
afford them.
dolls.
Yes. We couldn't afford them, and I don't think anybody was willing to stand in the line to get me one.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway.
Now, maybe it'd have been $17.99. That might change the situation.
And you knew how much
Yeah,
they'd be worth in
maybe.
a few years, too.
No, nobody would have done.
Still no.
Even at $17.99, nobody was going to stand in line.
After eyeing the now unruly mob, the assistant store manager positioned himself behind a counter, his legs wide, his arms, his hands firmly clutching a baseball bat.
Oh,
Finally.
goodness. I was nervous. His legs were wide and he's clutching something.
Pants down,
Where's this going?
duck walking it. Duck walking through the store. His hands firmly clutching a baseball bat. Finally, at 8:50 a.m., the manager unlocked the doors. Immediately, the once immobilized herd bull rushed their way inside, each hoping to nab a Cabbage Patch doll. In the frenzy, the otherwise civilized humans succumbed to their baser desires. One woman was knocked to the floor as she tried to hold onto a doll being snatched from her hands. Another woman clung to one of the ugly-ass toys as another woman choked her with a purse strap.
Seriously?
Yes.
Choked her?
Yeah. Yep.
With
There's only, and look, I can't, this whole story is not about the violence that happened during these, what would become Black Friday today.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of riots throughout the country in November, December of 1983 as the dolls became scarce. And it turns out, although I didn't put it in here, ultimately Coleco, who was making the dolls at this time, was using a tactic that they called something like withholding something leverage or withholding advantage or something,
Right,
which was
keep
the
the
idea
demand
of,
high, right?
Yeah. Artificially keeping
Yeah.
supply low so that whenever they had them out, they would be, these mad rushes and sell out.
Wow. Didn't that happen with Tickle Me Elmo or something like that too?
I thought they just couldn't keep up with that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like
I'm not
Coleco's
sure.
version of like sponsoring bum fights. Like, just like, you know what we can do? If we short the shipments, then we can watch all the footage of people choking each other with purses.
They'd toss one into a crowd. Another guy's got a video camera.
I found one, and then you run. And
Okay.
During the stampede, the assistant manager jumped on the counter before him, swinging his bat, demanding the crowd calm down. Rest in peace, Kyle Hirschfeld.
well, did the crowd kill him?
I thought this was the funniest thing when I wrote it. I really did.
During the stampede, the assistant manager jumped on the counter before him, swinging the bat, demanding the crowd calm down. Rest in peace, Kyle Hirschfeld.
Didn't go well for Kyle.
So, right. Like, are we wishing him to rest in peace? Like, peace because, like, was he...
He was killed.
Die naturally, or was he killed?
He was murdered when he tried to stop the crowd. All right, I made that part up, but I thought it was funny.
Okay, all right.
As I've said many times, murder's hilarious. You can't go wrong.
Exactly.
As 5 women, their bones broken, were being transported to Wilkes-Barre General Hospital, Cabbage Patch Kids were being birthed at Babyland General, 750 miles south of Pennsylvania. And while disputes over dolls at Zayre's and countless other stores across the nation had left many bruised and battered, the Cabbage Patch Kids were the subject of an even bigger custody battle.
Oh.
Here we go.
The very parentage of the dolls was in question.
Oh.
At stake,
There it is.
$1 million and a broken heart. This is the true story of the Cabbage Patch Kids. Seven years earlier, 1976. Born in the 2 red light town of Cleveland, Georgia, Xavier Roberts had never been a good student. So, poor both academically and financially, Roberts focused his junior college career on the one path that was all but guaranteed to keep him penniless: art. While studying his chosen field at school, Roberts supplemented the pittance he earned from his work at the state park by crafting pottery and selling his wares to classmates.
Which I just realized selling his wares is something that people do on OnlyFans.
Mm.
Was their underwears, though? Never mind.
Wait,
Then,
what?
one day,
I'd say selling his wares. That
Kat,
just sounded in my
You
head.
know
I
what
realized-
OnlyFans is, right?
Oh, OnlyFans. I thought you said Aldi fans.
Like the grocery store?
Like the grocery store.
You go down to
my
Aldi's and
God.
put a quarter of the shopping cart and sell your wares? Is that what's happening in your mind?
I'm married to an Aldi fan. So
Oh my God.
I'm like,
Wait,
wow,
your husband is on Aldi fans? I'm going to become a member just to see what he does with the fruit and vegetables.
What are you doing,
I
Aldi
was going to
fans?
tell him about an Aldi fans group.
Oh, that's one ripe melon. Look at this.
Look at this, yeah.
Thump, thump. Oh. That's ooh, perfect.
Apple.
I would even eat the rind. Damn.
Dirty boy. Aldi
It's
fans.
ripe. It's
No.
ripe. Only.
Blah, blah,
Gotcha.
blah, 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 blah. Okay, here we go. This is important.
Then,
So we're talking about
serious.
this, talking about Xavier Roberts and selling his wares to classmates.
then, one day, he saw something that would change his life.
Oh.
Aldi fans. He saw Kat's husband on Aldi fans. You shouldn't do that with raw steak
Or cooked, probably.
or cooked steak. Robert's aha moment, as he told the Washington Post in 1983, was a photo of soft sculpture, the art form popularized in the 1960s. To his great advantage, Roberts already understood the technique. He had watched as his mother made quilts as a side hustle. Inspired,
This is mother on Aldi fans. What's going on over there, Kat?
A little hustle
That's the side
brought me
hustle.
back to the OnlyFans.
Hustling my wares down to the grocery.
Inspired, Roberts began shaping four-way stretch fabric instead of clay. Soon,
Oh.
in what sounds like the premise to a horror movie, Roberts began sculpting his many nieces and nephews out of cloth, stuffing the dolls with soft fibers, stitching the mouths, painting their eyes. And although each one, as Roberts described, was different, each bore the signed name of their creator. But soon it became clear the dolls Roberts had begun fashioning were not as unique as believed.
Oh. So his were cloth.
Yeah.
Special
So yeah,
cloth.
soft sculpture is making sculpture out of cloth. So yeah. So he's making
Yeah,
dolls
yeah.
out of cloth. Yeah.
I'm picturing like pantyhose fabric, like nylon.
Yes, that's when
Right?
I look at the early Cabbage Patches. That's what I see as almost like a like a pantyhose fabric. Yeah,
Yeah. Stretchy, a little more opaque, maybe, I guess. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's the stuffing that makes it seem less transparent or translucent.
Well, you don't want to see the stuffing. That'd be like seeing blood vessels inside of a person. That'd be creepy.
It'd be like Mr. Body.
Through your skin. God.
Mr. Body, wasn't it? Or remember that guy who would do the educational stuff where he wore that suit that you could see his
Slim
organs?
Goodbody.
Slim Goodbody. Yes, he's still around, by
wow.
the way. I thought about inviting him on.
I gotta
Wear
look
the
that up.
suit. You wear the
You'll
suit.
remember Slim Goodbody when you see him, Kat. He was on all
you will.
different
Yeah.
TV
Will?
shows.
All right.
Yes.
I need to.
He's a guy with a full
right.
lycra bodysuit that looks like it's internal organs, and he has a distracting package.
Yeah, I mean, why did he include the genitals? That was weird.
Oh, those were his.
Wow.
Oh, he just had a cutout.
Oh,
It was 4-way stretch fabric. You can see right there.
just the hole,
was-
just right in the Sometimes he tucks produce in on Aldi fans.
Oh,
Little celery for you. Uh-huh.
I'm not eating at Mr. Slim Goodbody's house or Kat's.
According to Robert's Rag Doll to Riches tale, he began selling his creation at flea markets and craft fairs. In lieu of describing the intimate and, let's face it, at times disgusting process of creating life, Roberts explained to his customers that he had found his babies in a cabbage patch. And because he couldn't think of anything more offensive, Robert called them little people.
His first choice was taken.
Don't say it. Do not say it.
Why?
No.
I don't know what he was going to say. I don't think I want to know.
See, it's part of the mystery to not know.
Right, exactly.
As long as you know that I know, that's all you care
It's
about.
funny that Kat doesn't know, isn't it?
Is it funny, weird?
No.
or
Don't do
funny,
it. Don't do it.
ha-ha?
Don't do it. Don't even guess.
No.
It's
No,
best
I
for
don't.
everyone and the show in general. Don't guess.
Yes.
Yep. I'm not going to guess. I'm not going to guess.
To further distinguish his product from traditional dolls, Roberts told customers they were not for sale. Instead, they could be adopted. In fact, each doll came with a birth certificate bearing a one-of-a-kind name, gleaned from an actual 1938 Georgia birth registry. But as Robert's little people grew in popularity, it became clear that they weren't the only thing made out of whole cloth.
I love that you can't buy a doll for $30, but you can adopt one for $30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That sounds like child trafficking.
All right. Stop me if you've heard this story before.
Okay. Well, I won't,
I
but
already told you I'm going to say I've heard it before. That's my plan.
Born in 1950 and raised in the small town of Mayfield, Kentucky, Martha Nelson Thomas had long known that she wanted to be an artist. Ultimately, leaving her humble home for the big lights of Louisville, Thomas attended the Louisville School of Art in the early 1970s. While studying her chosen field, Thomas eschewed the traditional media. Eschewed the
Bless you.
traditional.
Did you just
Eschewed.
sneeze 3 times?
5 times and you can go home.
He even sneezes with the accent.
Eschewed. The
Achoo.
traditional. Thank you.
God bless you.
Thomas eschewed. Thomas ignored the traditional media employed by her classmates. Instead, she began experimenting with something that would define her life: soft sculpture.
oh boy.
Inspired by the children in her circle, Thomas shaped 4-way stretch fabric into dolls, whom she thought of as babies.
Wait, I've
each-
heard this before.
Yeah.
4-way stretch fabric. I've heard that before.
Familiar.
Sounds mighty familiar.
Stuffing, each with soft fibers, stitching the mouths, painting their eyes. Every baby Thomas birthed was unique. Unfortunately for Thomas, chicanery was commonplace.
That sounded super duper familiar.
Right?
That segment
Like
there.
2 minutes ago, familiar?
Yeah, pretty much.
By 1976,
It gets worse.
Martha Nelson Thomas had been making and selling her doll babies at craft fairs throughout Kentucky to some success. Not only were her soft, sculpted dolls one of a kind, but her marketing approach was too. Thomas's children bore no labels or tags, and adoptive parents received a birth certificate and adoption papers identifying their
wow.
uniquely named child. Her charming approach drew the attention of many enthusiastic customers, and one cowboy hat-wearing young man with a punchable face.
Oh. With a punchable face?
Yeah. Have you ever seen anybody with a punchable face, Cat?
Mm-hmm.
Not on the screen right now.
Right. Present company excluded.
What qualifies a punchable face?
Or you just look at him.
What's-
You just look at him, you're like, oh,
I've never thought that.
I might say something more about John and me than you. I see them everywhere. I see punchable people.
you need a high five to the face.
That'd be more of a slappable face.
While attending a crafts fair in Berea, Kentucky, Thomas was approached by then 21-year-old Xavier Roberts.
Oh.
Fascinated with her doll babies, Roberts
knew it.
told Thomas he wanted to sell them at the gift shop at the state park he managed in Georgia. Intrigued, Thomas agreed. And after returning home with doll babies in tow, Roberts began selling Thomas's creations from the place of his employ. Dissatisfied with the price Thomas had been charging, however, Roberts jacked up the cost to the consumer. But soon, when Thomas learned of Roberts' exorbitant adoption fees, Thomas demanded that he return the dolls. And while Roberts complied with the request, he also sent a letter to Thomas saying that he would, quote, carry your type of dolls, either made by you or someone else.
Oh.
See where
Wow.
this is going. Yeah. Never knew this before, though, right? I never knew this before, too.
Oh, I knew it.
Yeah.
John.
We're never gonna know if John really knew it or not. So now we don't know that. So much we don't know.
Am I saying I knew it because I knew it, or because I said I was going to say I knew it?
Do you know?
Yes, I know. Yes,
Oh.
of course.
Does it really matter?
The show has become a Russian nesting doll of bullshit. Or just straight shit. Because there's a difference, right? Between bullshit or shit. Bullshit's like something that's fake. Shit is garbage. All right, shit. More like shit. Here we go.
That someone else was Roberts. Assisted by 3 school friends and his mother, Roberts' crew handcrafted dolls that looked in most respects like those created by Thomas. And while he didn't
Wait, so he enlisted neighbor kids to help him bootleg these doll designs that he stole.
And his side hustling mom, right? Is that the mom on the
I think they were adults that he went to school with it now, like school friends from school.
Okay.
I think
so
that's
they
what
weren't
they meant.
kids? Is that,
I don't
okay.
think so, because I've seen them elsewhere
right.
described as
That's
Classmates
17%
or-
less shady. Okay.
all right.
So it wasn't child labor. Okay.
That's cheaper, though. That's why they use it.
And while he didn't craft each personally, Roberts was sure to sign them all. Much like cult leaders before him and since, each of the little people bore the branding of their leader on their buttocks. And when the demand for the toys exceeded his production capacity, Roberts purchased a derelict clinic, expanded his staff, and established the Babyland General Hospital. When a baby was born...
750 miles below Pennsylvania, right?
Yes. When a baby was born there, a nurse announced over a loudspeaker, "Cabbage dilation. All staff on standby." Beneath the magical crystal tree, doctors would inject the gaping vegetation with imagicillin just before yanking a nude doll from the leafy womb.
I don't like a lot of the words you're using.
This is your karma for saying moist last week.
Oh.
Karma for John.
I don't like a lot of those words.
I just got one more sentence here.
Adults will really do anything to avoid teaching children about sex.
Yep.
Oh, although it does make the proposition of Aldi fans much more likely.
Keeping vegetation.
No, that's a.
Oh my God.
Cabbage dilated. What do they say? Cabbage dilation. All staff on standby. Kat's husband hears that routinely every day.
That cabbage is a coleslaw trap.
When Kat's husband gets
It looks delicious.
When Kat's husband
I would love to shred that in a bowl.
coleslaw trap. I want a T-shirt that says coleslaw trap on it now.
Oh, little ASMR
Whatever.
cabbage grinding. Oh, damn.
Just like,
Let me check if the domain's available. I'll be right back. Hold on.
whenever Kat's husband gets a tip, ding. That's what it says.
I'm going to have Ice Cube do the jingle.
Yeah.
Come on down to the Aldi fans.
I'm going to have to cut that out.
That's exactly like Ice Cube, isn't it?
I'll replace it with the real Ice Cube.
I can't tell them apart.
Indistinguishable.
1980. As word spread about Roberts' apparently invented dolls, not everyone attributed the toys to Roberts. While visiting Martha Nelson Thomas, who had continued to sell her brand of soft sculpted babies at craft fairs in Kentucky. One
That's a tongue
confused,
twister.
one confused patron congratulated Thomas, telling Thomas she had seen Thomas's product being sold at an Atlanta airport.
Oh.
Thomas, of course, had not done so. And when she learned who was behind the knockoffs, Thomas's
boy.
heart was broken.
There's the broken heart.
Thomas
Right.
was quoted as saying, "That son of a bitch."
That cabbage dilating son of a bitch.
I'm unsubscribing from his Aldi fans.
I mean, it's such a crazy coincidence, right? That,
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
happenstance.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
'Cause it's cabbage.
I really, really, really thought that's what you said.
Maybe I did.
Oh.
After some cajoling by friends, the otherwise shy salt of the earth artist sought counsel from legal aid, the only attorney she could afford. While Thomas had resigned herself to the life of a bohemian artist, she was devastated that her babies were being mass-produced. And soon, a lawsuit seeking $1 million was filed against Roberts. Quote, "I know we're asking for money," said Thomas, "but that's not the reason we're in it. It's not completely honest to sell his dolls, and then, when asked where it originated, to omit my part," end quote. But the case wouldn't be heard until years after Roberts had become a multi-millionaire.
Wow. Huh. Was it still $1 million? In the suit? Did that
By
ever
then,
change?
yeah, you really can't. Once you file that, I mean, it'd have to be a
Okay.
reason you'd have to argue to the court that you could change it. That doesn't generally happen. Yeah.
Because I guess what you're filing for is the damages, and just because someone made more money off of you or less money doesn't change the damage to you, right?
Yeah. Right.
Wow.
That's not like he's agreeing to shut us
Well,
up.
I was going to go.
Yeah.
I was catching myself
Next.
going on some legal tangent, and I was like, you know what? No one really cares. So I'm not even going to say it. There's a circumstance, whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay, here we go.
Let's keep it simple. For the,
Yes.
1981. Babyland General had attracted the attention of more than just health and human services.
oh.
Atlanta entrepreneur Roger Schlafer,
Well, with all the horrible things happening there,
Right.
I'm not surprised.
Aldi's, both. Atlanta entrepreneur Roger Slafer saw the billion-dollar potential of the little people and sought to license the product. While Roberts was initially reluctant to do so, Slafer attempted to woo the quote-unquote entrepreneur with a mythology for the babies that placed Roberts at the center of the tale. For although vegetation routinely gave birth at Babyland General Hospital, Roberts offered no explanation as to who had fucked the cabbages in the first place. The answer was one more terrifying than a penis.
I don't think there's anything more terrifying than it being a penis. But I'm eager to find out what you think is more terrifying.
Oh, John, yeah. If you're scared of a penis, John, hold your horses.
I'm not scared.
Hold your
I've
penis.
seen one. I've seen a whole barrel of pickles in my day. I'm just saying.
You've seen a penis and pickles, both?
Oh,
A barrel of pickles?
I don't know what's creepier than that.
Hold on.
I'm eager to
Hold
find
on.
out.
Oh.
I'll tell you what, I'll tell you this, and then afterwards you could decide.
Okay.
What's more terrifying?
Right.
We'll put a poll up, too.
Eek, a penis.
Instead of the male equivalent of a cabbage, bunny bees, horrifying hybrids of rabbits and hornets, pollinated the cabbages by, quote, dropping crystals on them, end quote. Which is also a hashtag one may search for on TikTok when feeling thirsty. Fortunately, 10-year-old Xavier Roberts had followed a bunny bee to the debaucherous garden of child rearing. To save the newborns from the clutches of the evil Lavender McDade, young Roberts brought them to Babyland General, that they may be adopted by a loving home, or purchased by a parent willing to throw down at a department store.
Don't forget choke with a purse strap.
Unlike Cat's family, who was smarter than that, Roberts was sold.
Oh, wow.
So all you needed was a creepy story to get this guy's attention. He didn't want to do it. He said, we're good. We got this good production cycle going here. We're making lots of money. By then, they had sold hundreds of thousands of the handmade dolls out of his place in Georgia. But yeah, he created a wacky
With
story
child
behind
labor.
it. And yeah.
And his mom. Yep.
So I never diagrammed it out in my head like I'm doing right now. So these baby dolls are no part human. They're like 25% rabbit, 25% wasp, and 50% vegetable.
50%?
Yeah.
Just
Cruciferous vegetable.
Right. Yes. Right. The true crime is who assaulted those cabbages.
wonder they're so mushy and have no bones. They're
My cabbages.
and ugly.
Slafer, who described Robert's toys as, quote, really ugly, end quote, had won the license of the product. Rebranding the dolls, Slafer sold the Cabbage Patch Kids to Coleco, the toy company that was poised to have the country's second biggest hit of the season, the Adam computer. While Robert's dolls, and Thomas's before, were made entirely of cloth, Coleco utilized the latest in technology to sculpt the heads from snuggly vinyl. Aided by computers, Coleco factories could mass produce the dolls while still making each one different, varying the hair, eye, and skin color, and dimples, freckles, and cheekbones. Barbara Ruck, Coleco's director of corporate communications, was thrilled, saying, "What a homely little thing."
Nobody liked these dolls. I mean, everybody involved said they were ugly.
Except the consumers.
Right.
Yeah.
Except the kids love them.
I guess, yeah.
Well, that's what was so endearing about them is like, oh, they need homes. They're these orphans that aren't even pretty, and you gotta, it's like adopting the ugly puppy. It makes sense.
Something I've never done nor
No?
considered.
Really?
No, I don't think
They
so.
need you the most, Will.
Well, we adopted an old dog that had, I guess he had really bad breath and rotten teeth. So, yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think your guilt was being preyed upon.
That's true.
There.
He was adorable in one sense. That's true.
Yeah.
And needed a home.
Yeah.
Ugly can be, if it's ugly
You need
enough,
to
it
go
could be
home.
adorable. I think
That's what it said on the boxes of Cabbage Patch.
Is that what it said? The marketing campaign? Is that what Ice Cube said in the ad?
You will now.
Okay, check it.
1985. As sales of Cabbage Patch Kids and their related products raced toward $2 billion.
Ooh.
Martha Nelson Thomas's lawsuit against Xavier Roberts was nearing its close. The case was divided into two parts: copyright and fair trade. After a copyright hearing in 1982, a federal district court judge ruled that the copyright Roberts had obtained was valid. Roberts, they concluded, had not misrepresented himself by not giving credit to Thomas.
Oh.
For her part, Thomas said she didn't know she needed a copyright. Likewise, she didn't put a brand name or copyright insignia on the dolls because babies had no place for such things. Roberts, of course, had put a tramp stamp on each of the dolls in his stable.
My understanding of copyright law back then was that you literally had to have the little C insignia with the word copyright. Otherwise, it wasn't considered copywritten.
Yeah.
Which is kind of odd even because maybe, again, this is a back then thing. We wouldn't consider a product something that you would copyright.
Yeah.
More something that would be trademarked or patented.
Okay. Yeah.
Today, she wouldn't run into this problem. And I'm also confused as to why she didn't run into or have defenses like or be able to sue based on common law principles, because there was tons of evidence that showed that since the early 1970s, she had been making dolls that looked almost identical to what he winds up making. I mean, from the early 70s, years before she even met him. And he ultimately didn't dispute the facts about meeting her and all that stuff. So, but she did lose on the copyright grounds.
But with that kind of money, who cares that he lost, you know? And they could have just paid her off. But as she said, the principle was not the money so much, but he could have just paid her to go away and never felt it with that kind of.
Yeah. $2 billion. They could written her $1 million check that she wanted and be done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If you have $2 billion, you could drop $1 million on the street and not notice.
And she still does have the fair what is it? The fair trade.
Fair trade thing. Yeah.
Fair trade.
Aspect of the suit here.
Unfair in this case.
The second half of the suit focused on whether or not Roberts was in violation of federal law for claiming in advertisements that his product was, quote, original. While Roberts' attorney conceded that Robert got his idea for the dolls, quote, partly from Thomas, end quote, he maintained Roberts' expression of the idea was quite different from that of Thomas. But Thomas's attorney disagreed. The differences, he asserted, if any, were slight. And yet, the odds were stacked against Thomas. Courts, overhearing other similar disputes between Roberts and rival companies, had made an example of Thomas's dolls, highlighting just how different they were from those of Roberts. Thomas was fighting a losing battle. Then, things changed.
I didn't, I should probably find these other cases and see what distinctions they made, because seriously, you look at the dolls, you understand they were both giving papers, but you adopted the dolls. They had unique names. And again, in just looking at the dolls themselves, they're nearly indistinguishable. Certainly, and I'm talking about the early soft versions that Roberts made.
That's right.
When Coleco starts making them out of plastic, it's different
Yeah,
construction,
yeah.
so that's understandable. But
Now, Thomas's look a little less polished, but I think that's the nature of what she was doing, was making these kind of totally unique, one-of-a-kind kind of things. And Thomas saw the art, Robert saw the money. And so he's like, let's start making them. But then they turned to vinyl, it didn't matter anymore. And when you said they were all original, wasn't it like they had like 7 or 8 criteria that they could like put in a slot machine and you're going to get a subset of those materials? Like, dimples and eye color.
Yeah. But I suppose, statistically speaking, I guess 2 are going to be the same, right? At least is what you're saying.
Yeah. Someday.
But the permutations or variations, based on how many.
We're not going to be on the shelf together, right? They're going to be in different cities probably by the time you can duplicate
probably.
one. Yeah.
And I guess they also had a computer generating the names. So that kept track of no 2 had the same name. So in that sense, you combine all those things together, I guess you could say they're all unique.
They're all named after rabbits and hornets.
Yes, right. All right, last paragraph here.
Before the trial concluded, Robert's attorney asked Thomas to settle out of court. Thomas longed to leave the conflict behind her and return to her work as an artist. So, that day, the parties settled. As a result, Thomas was able to provide some input in the doll production and also received a monetary award. While that amount could not be disclosed, per the agreement, Thomas told her close friends that, quote, her children would go to college, end quote. Likewise,
Buying a home in Martha's Vineyard.
Likewise, Roberts, who by then was a multi-millionaire and, quote, the most eligible bachelor, end quote.
With a punchable face.
Likewise, Roberts, who was by then a multimillionaire and a most eligible bachelor,
Said he planned to return to school to learn how to become a sculptor. Possibly, we add, for the first time.
Zing.
Wow.
So
did Thomas receive a lump sum, or
we
was
don't know.
it?
We don't know.
You don't even know if it's related to sales or.
So here's some follow-up stuff. Here we go. Post this story. Just as some interesting things, I think. In 1986, it's now Roberts who does the suing because he sues Topps Chewing Gum Inc. For
Garbage Pail Kids.
For Garbage Pail Kids, who began life as a trading card.
Right.
Roberts claimed that I think they were just absolutely repulsive, that these trading cards,
I loved them,
which were parodies of the Cabbage Patch Kids, were doing damage to his brand.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Right?
First, they were helping his brand. Second, as ye sow, so shall ye reap.
Yeah.
You're damaging that brand that I sweat equity in stealing. So quit it.
And I stole. Yeah.
Now this, unfortunately, when we want to, I would want to have seen the Topps company prevail and them say, look, it's parody, so go screw yourself, Roberts. These parties also settled out of court. Along the lines, or following this, the terms of the agreement, Topps agreed to modify the appearances of the Garbage Pail Kids to remove any resemblances to the Cabbage Patch Kids. So damn it, Roberts wins again.
So he just made back his Thomas money off of Topps. So it's like nothing ever happened to him.
No, right. Also, Coleco, who at the time, as I mentioned, was the holder of the license and manufactured the Cabbage Patch Kids. It turns out that throughout the 1980s, they made a few unwise decisions, and the combination of their purchase of a company named Selchow and Reiter, which was the manufacturer of Parcheesi, Scrabble, Trivia Pursuit at the time, and their the amount of money they invested in the Atom computer, which turned out to be a real disaster.
Womp womp. Yep, garbage.
Combined with the fact that by the mid-late 80s, the public's interest in the Cabbage Patch dolls started to wane, Coleco files bankruptcy in 1988.
Wow.
Ultimately, the brand Coleco itself gets licensed. Other companies use it as a brand, but the sub-company itself didn't survive.
Burn bright, burn fast, burn out.
And the folks who the license for Cabbage Patch continued to bounce around. There's a number of different companies that have since held it. But right now, obviously, they're still producing Cabbage Patch toys.
And now the copyright is owned by Aldi fans.
Yeah. Aldi. Oh my gosh, we got to find if Aldi fans is a thing, John. Then we're going to get sued immediately. Almost
Check
immediately.
your messenger.
What's this?
The
link?
domain is available.
Yeah.
It's in my cart.
By some reports, Roberts sold his company that he created initially to manufacture his soft dolls and ultimately was licensing out the Cabbage Patch for $30 million. Sadly, in 2013, Martha Nelson Thomas passed away after a battle with ovarian cancer. She is survived by her husband, Tucker, and their children. I just checked as of today, the CabbagePatchKids.com website. There's no mention of her anywhere. Instead, it tells the history of the dolls as I shared it with you from Xavier Roberts' perspective, which seems to be a bunch of bullshit that he, co-opted her story and then tweaked it. Just like the dolls. He took her stuff and tweaked it, including her life story.
So we've been making a lot of fun of Xavier Roberts, maybe deservedly so, but is there any part of you that has any sympathy for an obvious entrepreneur who discovered a gold mine and was denied the opportunity to work with had he been more forthright, perhaps there could have been something worked out early on, but he kind of gave an ultimatum and she's like, no, I don't,
Yeah.
But we warned her. He's like, look, I'm going to do it. I want, the implication was I want you involved, but without you, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And she wasn't interested. And so I could see as an entrepreneur, it'd be so tough to throw that away because you see the value in it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying what he did was right. I'm not saying he did steal the idea, but he definitely embellished upon and built something greater out of the brand than she ever would have. Even though clearly the core of the concept was hers, undoubtedly. But I have 15% of sympathy for him, a little bit.
15?
Maybe 15.
This reminds me of all our other conversations we had recently with regard to copyright, that you're in favor of the, leaving things more open so that folks can continue to be able to create and riff on things and that sort of thing. And, I get that.
Didn't he do a cover song of the doll effectively? He's like, I'm going to reinterpret it myself. The rhythm is the same. The chord progression is the same, but I'm the vocalist. He took it and made it his own in a way that he might have been protected under music. Copyright.
Look, I haven't read the
it's an interesting
case
way to
itself,
look at it.
so I'd be curious. Yeah. Well, we know that ultimately it was settled out of court, but I'd be curious about the copyright part of it because, to your point, John, the court ultimately says he has legitimate copyright. You think that would be the end of the discussion, but why, when we read this story, do we hear the sides arguing whether or not it was the same looking doll, or there was, like we talked about, substantial similarity? They're kind of talking about, or it was transformative. Why are we caring about that? And maybe because some of maybe they were going to try to rely on some kind of, common law or other types of ways of getting at it. I don't think it was distinct enough. When you say it was a cover, that's maybe not a great metaphor because I told you before, theoretically, at least covers have to be the same genre and similar to the original in order to avoid, infringement. Not everybody does that. Most people, don't do that, but I don't know where I come down on this one. I guess, what if she had a copyright but she still kept it small? She still wanted to just do it. Now, at some point, the copyright or the trademark would expire theoretically and someone else could do it. But does that make you feel any differently about it, John? If the law was on her side to protect it and keep it small, even though you're the entrepreneur clamoring to make it a, multi-billion-dollar industry?
I think my gut feeling goes beyond the law. I think it's hard. I mean, I sympathize absolutely with Thomas and I understand the problem, but I see this guy who sees an absolute gold mine and a way to provide for his own life and his own family and his own everything. And this woman says, I don't want to. He's like, all right, well, I'm gonna do something like it. And I imagine he knew in his heart he was copying, but intellectually he's like, well, I'm differentiating this enough. Like he could make it rational to himself so he could sleep with himself at night, So.
Right, he justified it.
I'm guessing. I don't know the man, but
seriously, look him up. He looks very punchable, and you watch him in interviews.
I've seen him. Oh yeah, he is punchable. Yeah.
Maybe my watching.
I need to look him up so I can find out what looks punchable.
There you go. And maybe the fact that, I sympathize or empathize more with Martha. And maybe part of it is because of what I've read, the documentaries I've watched, because she's she was a struggling artist herself, because for all the reasons that when I see him talk about his story and tell his story over and over again in interviews about how he was inspired by a picture he saw, and I know it's a bunch of bullshit, it just makes me, any empathy or sympathy I had for him just drains.
So it's the dishonesty part of it.
That's a big part of it.
Sours it.
Yeah. And before the hate mail flows in, I come down on Thomas's side. Yeah. It's just that I have a few percent that I empathize with the motives. I don't think were entirely demonic. I think there was someone who just wanted to do something good and they were stymied, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it a shot, and it worked out for him. And in lots of ways, legally, financially. Yeah.
I think if I were in his position and really felt like I had a clear vision for how this could be a big brand, and provide a product that lots of people would enjoy. I think, look, maybe I don't think this is a fantasy. I think if I was in this position, I would have cut her in. Look, here's the deal. I'm going to tell you right now. I took your thing, but here's 10%,
Take another run at
25%.
it. Don't ultimatum and then go, right?
Yeah.
You come back and go, all right, I told you here's what I'm going to do. Here's your first check. Please sign this so we can be partners. Instead, he just kind of went on his own once she was out of the picture. Yeah.
And I know she had feeling. Part of the reason she was so upset about it was they were being mass produced, as we mentioned, and not handcrafted anymore. All right, maybe there's a way we can work this out.
Right.
I'm glad that, so Vice did a documentary about her in 2015. HBO did a more recent documentary that included aspects of this. There was going to be a series that was based on these stories with Laura Dern and Issa Rae that was announced a few years, maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, that never seemed to amount to anything, which is too bad about it. But it does seem at least that she is starting to get some recognition for what she's doing. But as I mentioned, even though Roberts himself admitted that he was inspired by her, because he did.
Yeah.
Nowhere to be found on his website.
No.
All right. Hey, that was the show.
And the show that you just heard is brought to you every week, thanks in part to our early adopters like Rick Parker, Karen Flieger, and Kathy Bird. And thank you especially to our Secret of Our Success Level Patreon supporters like Tony Great, Nick Guillory, John Henderson, Craig Coletta, Brad Bowman, and Marcus Taylor.
All right. What a roster.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you guys so much for your support. If you'd like to support us as well, you can go to 1980snow.com/support. There's plenty of ways to do it, including go to the Patreon like these folks do. But there's others too. Just send us an email. Just make a post. Give John a high five if you see him on the street. But I guess
But don't punch him.
Not to the face. No.
not to the face. Oh, that's right. That's what he meant. Now I see what he was doing. Or steal an idea from an old lady who came up with it first and give us part of the money. Any of those things that John supports.
Sign up for Aldi fans. Don't
That's
forget.
right. Or send us a link to your Aldi fans. Free subscription. Any of those things. Or all of them. All right, guys. Hey, we will talk to you next time on 1980s Now.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.
This podcast is part of the 80s Ruled Network. Visit the 80s Ruled on Facebook for more 1980s awesomeness.